Hello all, welcome to Up The Poshcast, the Poshcast made by the fans for the fans. Grab yourself a drink, put your feet up and listen in. And by the way, there could be some strong language.
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest episode of Up The Poshcast, 22 hours after a disastrous evening in Mansfield where Posh lost 4-2 to ultimately what is a team that I think is probably going to be fighting relegation with us next season. I am joined tonight by Lodz and Del. I am Ashley. And normally what would happen here is the host of the pod would throw it to one of the two people that have joined them. But I am that angry and frustrated that I actually spent my day today writing down some words just so that I didn't forget the things that annoyed me last night. So I'm going to work through those and then we're going to dissect whatever shit show those players wanted to put on offer. So I wanted to start firstly with how upsetting it was to watch a team that's meant to be the team that we're going to be playing next season and the squad that we're going to be playing show absolutely no effort for pretty much 70% of the game, even 80%, 90% of the game. For players that know that they might be out of contract, for players that are wanting to be first teamers for this football club, for players that are potentially going to be having contracts offered to them, and for even those that are going to be leaving at the end of the season. The lacklustre attitude that they put on display was disrespectful, not only to the football club, but to every fan that sat at home last night, to every fan that travelled to Mansfield, 550, 600 people, to watch what ultimately was a dead rubber. Now, I think back to a week ago before we previewed the Bolton game, and we had 3 dead rubber games. And I said, don't really care what happens. That wasn't right. I do care, because what happened last night was embarrassing. To concede after 3 minutes, to concede after 8 minutes, it's not lack of ability, because I'm sure that it's all there. They wouldn't be playing League One football if they didn't have some form of ability. But the desire, the weaknesses, it was embarrassing. You know, I don't want to come on here. I've said it before. I think that they're probably a really nice group of players. Like Del mentioned before, you see a different side of them when you get to go to these different events. But nights like tonight, just put in all of that hard work that you think that we've put in across the season, ruins it completely. And I'm just so disappointed that that's how they want to represent themselves and the football team. So, you know, I feel disappointed for somebody like Will Blackmore, who has come in and has been told that he's got 3 games to sort of show himself and show the fans what he's about. To concede 4 goals, he will, of course, be disappointed. And then more so, which will nicely move us on to the team, I'm disappointed in the leaders on the pitch, because there's lots of things being bandied around about these leaders that we've had and the experience that we've had. They didn't show it last night. I don't think they showed any guts. I'm talking about Sam Hughes. I'm talking about Edun. They were so poor from start to finish yesterday that ultimately, you know, we've said that we're going to discuss it later, but it's hard not to drop it in now. How do you justify giving players like that contracts? How do you justify sacrificing what this football club is about potentially with players like Harley Mills, with players like Manny Fernandez, George Nevitt, for such disappointing performances? You know, I don't want to blabber on too long. I've been going for nearly 3 minutes now. So I'm going to throw to one of our hosts that we've got here. We've also just been joined by Max. So we're going to chuck him in. And then hopefully one of these guys is going to take over from me and talk to me about Sam Hughes and Edun.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in. And I just want to point out that whilst the players didn't turn up last night and I thought, whatever, it's great to see Max running late. He busted bollock to get on this show tonight. So, you know, doff me out to you, Max. Well done, mate. But just a little bit before we go on to a couple of the players is when we got to the ground, when the players got on the pitch, it's been mentioned before, when they got on the pitch to do their warm-up, what fucking warm-up? It was there was no structure. I'm not sure if I mentioned it to anybody here, but there was no structure. They was just kicking the ball. They was laughing and joking. And for me, it didn't look like it was being taken serious before we'd even kicked the ball at 7:45. We knew what was going to happen. Well, I knew what was going to happen. It weren't going to be very good. And that's exactly what happened. It was as if they'd never played together. And you could actually use the argument that this team has probably never played together in the positions that what they are as in a competitive game. What they have done is obviously done a lot of training together and done this and done that, but it wasn't very good. I'm trying my best not to swear, but it wasn't very good, and it was really disappointing. And as you've alluded to, Ash, is the fact that it's a midweek. Most of us had to have time up. Well, had to have time off work or left work late to get there. Why? We put the effort in. There's fucking nearly 600 fans put the effort in, but the players just really didn't. The majority of the players didn't, or if they did, well, it didn't show. It wasn't good, and you pick up a couple of players there. Hughes, we've all been a bit sort of building him up of late, haven't we? And yesterday it wasn't all that great. We talked about Edun. I've been fucking hyping on about Edun. Love him. Look, no disrespect, young man. You wasn't very good last night. You couldn't trap a fucking bag of wind, let alone a ball. And it was just, and that was for most of the players. There really wasn't any player that can come off that pitch and hold their head up high and say, I done my absolute fucking best. I bust a bollock for this 90 minutes or however long you are. There was a couple of players, don't get me wrong, that I thought had, can't even say okay game, but mediocre. When you see my scores that come out tomorrow, I was so over fucking generous. It was unbelievable. But I was trying to be positive. And for me to try and be positive, well, whatever. But it was just, it was nothing there. And it was just so disappointing to watch Peterborough United, 2 games to go before the end of the season, sort of come out. It's just like a damp fucking, what do they call it? Squib. It was poor. It was extremely poor. We could go on to more players. I think you look at let's look at the goalkeeper, Will Blackmore. I don't think he actually played that bad. I just don't think he's big enough to be a goalkeeper. And that's no disrespect for you. 2 of those goals I think could have been prevented if he was taller. The one that got looped over his head, was that the second one? And I think it was a 4th one where, it was a decent strike, but his arm wasn't long enough to sort of get round to where it was. If he was a bit bigger, he would have saved that. So I think that has made my mind up about whether or not he should be here next season, because I don't think he's big enough to be a professional goalkeeper in League One. Taking away the fact that I think he's a really nice lad. But, we're here. Business and friends should not come in. He's not my friend, by the way, but business and mates and, pleasure and business shouldn't be mixed. And that is a sort of attitude that I'm sort of now having to some of the players that, whilst I think you're okay, you're not good enough. Or while I think you're a cunt, you're good enough to play, if that makes sense. But it's flat, isn't it? We'll talk about Rotherham very shortly, and I'm sure we'll talk about some more players. But I've got something to say about Rotherham, and but I don't even know what else I can say about some of the players. It was fucking embarrassing, and just before I go on, I'm never one of these that says the players should pay for the fucking fans' tickets that turned up. Absolute bullshit. That should never, ever, ever happen. I have my choice to pay my ticket to go and see my team, whatever. But if there ever was a fucking time when that should happen, I think last night probably was it of this season. And we've had some shit this season.
Well, there isn't really a lot I can say that you two haven't already said. I didn't attend last night, so I'm not going to be as angry as you two, quite rightly. It's just a big disappointment, isn't it? I said that the result wasn't important and I just wanted to see a good performance, and we didn't get a good performance at all. I actually would probably go as far as saying that was the worst performance we've played this season, which was a tough job for them to achieve given some of the performances we've had. And if anything, the result probably made them look better than what they were. To pull that back to just 4-2, you literally, that first half was diabolical. You could argue it's our B team. You could argue it's a dead rubber and there's nothing to play for. But this B team of ours aren't a B team at the moment. They're a B and a half, because they could well be the A team next season. So as far as I'm concerned, they've got everything to play for. Players like Ryan de Havilland, he should be looking at that space that Kit Brownie's just left in that starting 11, and he should be taking that opportunity and playing his absolute heart out. Chris Concark, the same. Will Blackmore should be fighting for a place. They're all just let themselves down big time. And then you've touched on it, Teo Edun. I think the majority of the fan base are really shocked that we've given him this opportunity. With Harley Mills coming out the way he has, we all wanted him to be our starting left back next season. We've got Rio on the books, and we've decided to give Edun a contract. I think we all appreciate Edun's a good player and has put in some good performances at the back end of this season. But to thank the club by putting that performance in, he's going to lose a lot of the fans that have supported him through him getting sent off and acting unprofessional in the games he has. And then little things like Fergie playing him in midfield, like, what are we doing? If this is the squad we're going into next season, I'm with Ashley here. I'm not optimistic at all. I'm not looking forward to it. And I think normally I try and find positive things when we have performances and results like this. The only positive thing I can think of is if Fergie was that angry last night that he's gone to Dara and said, I am not staying next season if you don't get me some signings, because this team needs some serious investment, or they need to pull their finger out of their arseholes and play out of their fucking hearts against Rotherham. Because we can't go into next season playing that team and playing that way again, because we will get relegated.
I think disgusting is the word I'd probably use to sum up that performance. It really was dire. And I echo what every single person here has already said. Mansfield had won 2-25, I believe, coming into this game, and they are off the back of absolute thumpings from Birmingham. And I can't remember who they played before, but they off the back of they're probably one of the worst 4 informed teams. Their form has been awful this season. They picked up a lot of points at the start, but on the back end, they haven't been that great. Now, if there's any time that you want to play a team like this, whether it's dead rubber or not, this was an opportunity for players who Peterborough United future probably isn't 100% set in stone, a lot of them. And to put on a performance like that when you're basically playing for a contract, or you're playing to stay here, you're playing for football next season, was absolutely diabolical. And I was going to travel. I decided last minute not to, and I am so thankful that I did, because if I had to watch that sack of shit when everybody else had to go up there, I think I would have been absolutely raging, which is exactly what Del and Ashley both were after watching that sort of performance. And people on Twitter were like, well, it's dead rubber. It's a terrible, it doesn't matter. We're safe. Who cares? I think the answer to that is this is an excellent window into what next season could look like. These players, we had no Ricky, Kiprianu or Poku in the lineup. And we had Hughes and Edun both playing. So this could genuinely be what we could look like next season. Obviously, we'll make some signings, but regardless, this is what it could be. And if this is what it's going to be, we are going to finish rock bottom of League One. We look awful. There is no tempo. There is no patterns of play. Defensively, we played ourselves into trouble over and over and over again. Hughes would head it to the opposition. Nevitt would pass it to the opposition. Nevitt and Edun both got torn a new one all game. It was terrible to watch. Absolutely terrible. To the point where I considered numerous times just turning it off. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe what I was watching. And I really hope that this would be an excellent builder into next season. To put on a performance like we did at Wembley, to beat the team who's broken all sorts of records in this league, all sorts of records in Birmingham, and is probably is the best team that League One's seen in terms of points tally. It is, and yet we had that team that went and did that at Wembley, to then come to Mansfield like this and put a performance on like that is simply embarrassing. I don't know where you go from it. Fergie said in his press conferences there's problems. He's got to find answers to the problems. I don't know as a fan where the answers lie. Is it an overhaul? Is it just terminating and selling players and basically rebuilding again and going through another season like this? Can we add players into this team to make it a team that can be pushing for the playoffs? I don't know where we go from here. And I think, obviously, as reactionary as I am, if we get a result at Rotherham, my opinions will change yet again. But after this game, I don't see how we're going to get back to the sort of where we've been, which is in and around the playoffs. I don't know how. With this team, I don't know how we're going to get back there again.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, Max. And look, I think we've all had our fair go. I would like to just quickly make everybody aware that if you're listening to this on Thursday night, if you're listening to this on Friday, or if you're listening to this on Saturday on the way to the game, we did record our retained list episode. We recorded it on Monday night. Now, I'm sure that if we recorded it after last night, we were recording it now, there would be plenty of changes made to some of those things that we've said. But let the record show that it was done on Monday night. And that will be out on Saturday, pretty much as the final whistle goes in Rotherham. So if anybody wants to spend the hour and 45-minute journey home to Peterborough listening to an hour and 40 of our ramblings and retained list, it will be there for you on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. One player, however, that I was delighted for last night was that little Swede up top in Gustav. I'm so happy that he's got himself off the mark in the league. And look, people will say, oh, you're just trying to arse-lick D-Mac, but he's right about the runs. He makes good runs. We have a real issue in that our final ball at the moment is absolutely appalling. Now, yes, he should have scored 2 last night. One that he had one-on-one with the goalkeeper, clattered against the crossbar. But, you know, the finish that he took was a tidy finish. And you watch it, especially from behind the goal, you see the movement that he's making, you see the runs that he's making, and then players like Con Clark, players like Mothersill, they're just not finding him. And imagine how frustrating that must be for somebody like him who's being criticised week in, week out. He's being told that he's not good enough. He's being told that he's a waste of money. And he's just not being given the chance ultimately. And, you know, like I said, I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he got a goal yesterday. I hope that he gets another one on Saturday and he can take those into the end of the season because it's been tough for him since he joined us. But that's probably the only positive that I can find from last night, if I'm being completely honest.
I'm glad you mentioned the retain list episode, Ashley, because there was a couple of things I said in the Gustav segment of that. And I don't want to give too much away, but one of the things I mentioned was signing a more... how do I explain it? A striker that looks like they're a natural finisher, someone that wants to grab the goals, you know. Gustav does make good runs, you're right. He's in good positions as well, I'd say. I'd say that's probably 2 separate things. When the ball gets played in the box, he seems to be in and around it. But there was one chance in particular that just sums him up, I think. And that's, I think it was Malik that played it in from the right. And I think it was like a 50-50 between Gustav and the goalkeeper. And Gustav just looked like he was making no effort to get that ball first. And I just thought about all of the natural number 9s that Peterborough United have had in their history that we've developed and sold on for millions. And I just thought they would all go for that ball. They would all score there. And we've not had one for a few years now. And I don't think Gustav's the answer. I do think he'll be good. I do think he'll be useful. People say that he could turn out to be like Jack Marriott. I think at the moment he looks more like Luke James, where he just runs about a lot and doesn't really get on the ball in front of goal. John's not on tonight, but me and him were looking at some stats last night after the game, and we noticed that he doesn't really shoot a lot, Gustav. Turns out he actually shoots less per 90 than what Manny does this season. Half a shot a game, well, per 90. I know he's not played many minutes, but even as a sub, Ricky comes on as a sub, he has 2 or 3 shots. Gustav comes on as a sub, you're lucky if he has 1. His XG is already minus 1.3 for the season. And if you think he's barely played, that's really bad. He seriously needs to improve. I like him. I think, I'll be honest with you, I was watching on my phone. My phone died before his goal went in. I haven't even seen it. I've not pained myself to go and watch the highlights and see what the goal was like. But Fergie's interview, he seemed genuinely pleased and relieved that Gustav got that goal. So I can trust that, you know, he's working hard in training And we have said that it's going to take him some time, but like I said, I don't want to give too much away on the retain this episode, but we need a natural striker up front, I think, if we want to compete next season.
Now, while we're staying on Lindgren, Gustav, I wasn't really that impressed with him, to be fair. Yeah, he had a couple of good little runs, but as you also said, Lodz, he may have got in the right position, but when he was there, he done fuck all with it. And they just, I'm not seeing enough from for me to be excited about him next season. Maybe a fringe player, maybe not, but if I'm honest, I think he was the least of our problems last night compared to some of the other players that we had. I just didn't get some of the formation. And I think Max said a minute ago about it was a dead rubber game, or people put it down as a dead rubber game. Well, it wasn't it for Mansfield as well? Or was they not guaranteed staying up, whatever? But they seem, whilst they were still shit, don't get me wrong, they seem to be up for it more than us. But not only that, no game should ever be a dead rubber game. You got the likes of, we can start from the back. We've got fucking Will Blackmore, who up and on, what do we want to do with him? Do we want to keep him, get rid of him? Johnston fighting for a right back place, who then played left back, left side of the back three. Edun, we've already mentioned about, giving him a new contract. I'll be fighting my bollocks off to have a contract that I'm going to sign, whether it will be. De Havilland, I like De Havilland. I think he done okay. Again, last night was no different to what he normally is. He was steady, and that's all you can say about him. I like him. I'd keep him, as you know. Dobie was okay, but again, these are the sort of players that should have been really fucking busting a bollock to sort of show that you don't need to sign any other players. You don't need to sign another centre midfielder or this, because I'm your man. And nobody last night put their fucking, the hat into the fucking mix to say, look, I want to be your number one starter next season for whatever position. Because nobody impressed me, or nobody went out there and fucking put a hard enough shift in to warrant, Fergie not wanting to get more players in, or even to not add a few extra on the transfer list. Maybe the player should take a leaf out of our book. As Ash and Lodz have already said, we've been working our asses off on this fucking podcast, to give our views and everything. We worked our asses off the other night, a few hours we was doing it after work on a Monday or whatever night it was, to have a show ready for you after the last game of the season. All you got to do, get in your car at whatever time it is, 5 to 5 o'clock, and press play on Spotify. And we've covered your fucking journey home, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? However shit the game is, however good the game is, we've got you something to get you home, to try and entertain you, to try and, make you want to listen to Peterborough United podcast, to make you want to be part of Peterborough United. Where's the fucking players in all of this? Obviously, we're not allowed to players on, but that's another story. I meant the players on the pitch. Where are they putting the effort in? Because at the moment, they fucking ain't. And I'm not going to get too emotional, and I'm not going to get too reactional. But with my retain list that I done last week, I'm going to stick to that. I think I may change it come like Saturday, but at the moment, I'm going to stick to it. But yeah, come on, just put the fucking effort in. Frighten. And on Saturday, they really need to show, even if it was only 10% more than the effort they put in last night, will be a fucking major improvement. But anyway, let's see what happens, eh?
I'm going to start with agreeing with you, Dal. And what I will say is that I completely agree in terms of these players should be absolutely running their socks off. I mentioned when I first spoke that these players are basically fighting for contracts, fighting for their futures, and Mansfield looked like they were bang up for it. And you hit the nail on the head really there, Del. What I'm going to disagree on is Gustav. Now, I've been very hot and cold with Gustav. However, there was glimpses last night, and all I want to see is glimpses. There is glimpses that there's a player there, and Ashley hit the nail on the head in terms of the runs that he makes, and he got his goal with the confidence, with the confidence of picking up a goal while playing, that in that position. Perhaps that there is a player in there that we can definitely sort of mould anyway to be our number 9 next season. So hopefully we can sort of see that and mould that. There was glimpses of a player in there. The stats probably don't lie, and he does need to improve, but there definitely is a player in there that I'm excited to see. Give him a pre-season, back him. If he's going to be our starting striker, what I would say is if we're going to get rid of Bradley, I would like to see us make a move for one in the summer. There's a few names that I probably like, but I'd like to see us make a move in the summer for a striker to give us an option. If the project of Gustav is going to fail, or if we're in a good position and he's probably the weak link, maybe to allow us to freshen up our attacking options. There is a player that I do desperately want to talk about, though, and that's Odo. And I thought he was terrible last night. I thought he was absolutely terrible. And the problem I have with Odo is he's probably the most inconsistent player on the team, and he doesn't show what he can do enough. If we look at Charlton at home and if we look at Crawley away, those 2 games we really saw what Odo could do, which was if he's on it, he's on it. And there is a player there, very similar to Gustav. And again, these games, as much as they matter, they do matter, but realistically, nothing's going to come from it, whether we finish 20th or whether we finish 13th. It doesn't matter. We're staying in League One. We can't do anything else. But these games, Odo should be showing what he can do. And that's the truth. He should be. And he doesn't. And it really lets himself down, because I have seen how good Odo could be with those 2 games alone. Like, those 2 games alone is enough for me to see that there probably is a League One player in there. I don't think we'll ever get the most out of him. I don't. I don't think he's suited for the way we want to play. I think it's too high intensity for him. I can't quite put my finger on why he isn't as good. I don't think he should be our starting winger next season. I'll say that much now. I've seen glimpses there, but I really do think we should be investing and give him some competition, because I wonder whether he's got no competition really on that flank. I wonder whether he's just like, look, I'm the starting player. There's no need for me to put the effort in. I can go and play as good as I want or as bad as I want, and I'm going to start regardless. I wonder if we went and signed some young up-and-coming talent from League Two, or even the National League, which is where we like to sign from, or even a Championship or Premier League loan. And we basically say, look, we're going to start this person over you, and you've got to show us in the opportunities that we give you that there is a future for you here. I wonder whether we'll see that Charlton at home Odo and that Crawley away Odo more often. Because it's very similar to how Randall was when we signed Randall. I really want to see him succeed, because he gets a lot of stick. He gets a lot of flack from us, from people on Twitter. He gets a lot of flack. And I really do think that there's a player there. I just want to see that Odo more, and I don't want to see the Odo we saw last night for the rest of next season, because I'm going to be quite frank, I really, really cannot watch it any longer.
Yeah, Abraham Odo, Max, you're right. Probably the most frustrating player, I think, in the squad. However, I do sympathise with him partly, because I don't think he's a right winger. I think it's very clear to see all of his best performances have been on the left wing. He should be playing on the left wing. However, we are experimenting with a Chris Clark that is ultimately not good enough in Cam, which means that we are forcing Malik Mothersill out onto the left wing, which Malik Mothersill's very good. Yes, he had a poor night last night. But with no Clark in the team, Mothersill plays Cam. Odo plays left wing. And then, yes, we're obviously struggling at the moment for a right winger. Who knows? Maybe somebody like Teo Edun fills that space going forwards. But the basics are the biggest frustration with Abraham Odo. 3-4 times he gave the ball away. I'm pretty sure that 2 of them resulted in Mansfield goals. There are things that you can excuse, but getting the basics wrong are just not one of them, ultimately. And another basic of football is putting your foot into a tackle. The amount of times that I watched Ryan de Havilland pull out of a tackle, go into a 50-50 at about 10% and bottle it. Now, I get that these players don't want to get themselves injured going into the summer, but like we've said in the previous 30 minutes, Jesus Christ, show some passion, show some effort, show some inspiration for the fans. Not going into tackles to a team like Mansfield, it's unforgivable for me, unfortunately. And just quickly, whilst we are on dead rubber against Mansfield, the Mansfield fans were up for that. It was a really good atmosphere in the ground yesterday when they went for it, and they really saw their team home yesterday, I thought. And look, that's not the responsibility of Posh to quieten the fans, not the Posh fans to quiet the home fans. That's the responsibility of the players. You give them a 2-goal lead after 8 minutes, of course they're going to be noisy. But to be as lacklustre as we were yesterday was disappointing. And it does just all link back to where are we at the moment. It's baffling almost. I think that obviously the big discussion point within the week has been all of the new contracts, which, like I said, is somebody like Theo Edun going to end up playing midfield, like Max mentioned? Could he play right wing? He's quite tricky with his feet. He carries the ball well. I don't know. But ultimately, we've offered these two players contracts, Sam Hughes and Theo Edun. So where do we go from here?
I don't want to see Theo Edun at right wing, if I'm being honest with you. I like Theo Edun at left back. I am surprised we've given him this new contract. And a couple of interesting things have happened, actually, as a result of that. The first one was on Dara's pod. He said that Harley Mills's dad has hesitated in the signing of Harley Mills's contract. Not that his dad's signing for the club, but he's advised young Harley not to sign just yet because he wants to see what's happening with Theo Edun, which says to me that Mills's camp knows where he's at. They think he should be starting games in League One, and we're not going to sign Theo Edun to sit on the bench, are we? I get that we have to manage Rio's comeback, and he's probably not going to get as much game time as he would have this season. But we've never had a backup left back of that ability before. So one of the things that I thought perhaps we are waiting to see is, are we going to get some big offers for Harley Mills this summer? And is that going to be what stops us selling any other players? I.e., if we sell Mills this summer for £2 or £3 million, does that mean that we can give Collins and Mothersill the contracts that they deserve? And perhaps that's what we're just a bit hesitant on. I actually put a poll out on Twitter to ask fans if they would rather we sell Harley Mills now and keep Mothersill and Collins for another few years, or sell Mills next summer, but have to let Collins and Mothersill go for free. And it was a very tight poll. I think it was 52% said to sell Mills now. And when we put our retain list poll out, I think Harley Mills was the highest voted player. I think he was like 97 or 98% retained, which goes to show you sort of how popular he is with the fan base at the moment. I honestly think that that's what's happening here. I think we're gearing up to sell Harley Mills. I don't know why we would give Theo Edun this contract right now. And we've also offered Sam Hughes a contract. Well, supposedly we're going to try and buy him. Obviously, he's a Stockport player, which I think is a really positive thing. I like Sam Hughes. I think he's had a really good impact on our season. And I think his leadership and his experience will be something that we need to take into next season, I think, to grow some of these players that are currently in the squad. So I think it's probably a positive thing trying to keep both of them two players. It's a good start to the window. I don't think either of them will be eating up the wages too much. And I don't think Stockport will require a massive fee for Sam Hughes either. So a small glimpse of positivity after a shit week.
I think that then does probably wrap us up nicely on last night's absolute disaster class from Peterborough United. And it does take us forward into Saturday against Rotherham, an away game, 1,000 Posh fans going to watch another dead rubber. Hopefully this time those players out on the pitch can perform. Now, special mention to Malik Mothersill here. if he gets a minute on the pitch on Saturday, he will have played a part in every single league game. Now, for somebody that struggled for fitness, somebody that struggled with injuries when we signed him, there are rumours that we signed him injured. To have played every single game in the league is an absolute testament to his professionalism and to his ability as a footballer. I hope that we can go out there for those players that are, playing their last game for Peterborough United. I hope that we can name a full bench, because not to go back to last night, to only have 6 subs is embarrassing. Hope that we can have a full bench. I hope that those like Poku, like Kipriani, that are potentially refusing to play because they know that they've got moves lined up, at least have the decency to come over and clap the fans after the game, because it'll be the last time that we see them. I don't have a great deal to say on Rotherham. I just hope that we don't go out and disappoint ourselves like we did last night at Mansfield.
So on Shrewsbury, don't even know where that come from. Rotherham is close. Oh, fuck it, mate, I'm so tired. On that, what you just said about the players is they didn't come over and clap. I know I've been saying it for fucking ever and a day. Players could not give a fuck about the club once they've gone. You know, it's just a case of they played for us, they've done their bit, see ya. And that's just what's happening last night, and that's what's going to happen on Saturday. And fuck them. You know, thanks for what you've done while you've been here, but move on. Just what you've also said about the attendance. I think it's 1,100 tickets were sold so far for Rotherham away, last game of the season, after the shit show of a season that we've had, apart from winning the trophy, obviously. I think it's a testament to the fans of Peterborough United. Now, what we do need to see is for the players to end on a high, you know. Whether you're leaving at the end of the season and you get a few minutes, whether you're like fighting for a contract, whether you're trying to, you know, just start, get your head in there for a starting position next season, for fuck's sake, put the effort in. You know, we've spoken about effort quite a lot tonight. Put the effort in, put on a good show. If we get beat 5-0 and you've all worked your fucking bollocks off and you've tried your hardest, then that's fine. But if you come off that pitch and it's been shit and you haven't like sort of put the effort in and you're not even sweating, then go fuck yourself, because I'm not really interested. You know, I just want players that want to play for us, want to do their best for us, and you know, put the effort in. So I don't even know what team to pick. Haven't got a fucking clue. But let's not try and play players out of their said position like we was doing a little bit last night. Get what is available, get them out there. Tinker if we have to, but at least play the right players in the right positions. And from a player's point of view, just fucking make sure you put the effort in and show up, because you know, it's a long time before the start of the season and we want to end it on a high, not a fucking on a low. All right, cool.
Yeah, no, look, I agree in the fact that we shouldn't be trialing and erroring players in different positions. I think it's probably a little bit silly, and we shot ourselves in the foot against Mansfield, and I don't think anybody on the last day of the season wants to watch them absolutely hammer us like Mansfield did, and we get played off the park. I'd like to see a stronger team. I'd like to see the 3 that are going come back in, and I'd like them to have their one last hurrah. And I think the atmosphere will be relatively good in the away end. Everybody's had their send-off. It feels like Poku probably hasn't. I'd really like him to get one more goal. If anybody, it's him that I want to score the most, just so he can, you know, score, wave goodbye to the away end, let us all have our moment, and then part ways in the summer. But that goes for all 3 of them. I hope they all start. I think Darren Ferguson actually said that Jed was going to be involved in the last game in one of his interviews. I might have made that up, but I remember hearing it somewhere. So let's see what happens. I think Will Batmore will start, but it'll be nice to see sort of everybody and allow the team to sort of hopefully give us a nice send off. The season's been full of ups and downs, mainly downs. We haven't had a lot of ups, but if we can win here and drag whatever inkling of morale or hope or happiness into next season, I'd much rather it than another 6-1 thumping. So let's see what happens. I hope that we play a stronger team than we did today. I hope we don't experiment with players in positions that they're never going to work in. And I hope we don't get thumped, is what I also hope.
Yeah, you're right, Max. This will be ultimately one of the most disappointing seasons that I think that we watched Peterborough United in, and that nicely wraps us up to go to some score predictions. So, Del, you're up first. Take us away.
Do you know what? I couldn't give a fuck. I generally do not care what the score will be. I just hope we get, I don't know, I hope somebody scores 4, just for the crack. 4 goals, us, 4 goals them. I don't know why. 4 is a magic number at the moment. But no, just, I don't know. 4-0 Peterborough. That's it. Final score.
Yeah, look, we could say that the players are going to come back and play out their skin to make amends for last night. We could say that Poku will play and get the goal that Max so desperately wants him to get, even though he's not even going to travel, let alone be involved with the squad, Max. We could say that Ricky's going to get his hat-trick so he can get the 20 goals in all competitions that he desperately wants. Or we could say that this result will be the exact Peterborough United result you would expect from the last game of this shambolic season, and that is 0-0. We're going to finish the season on a 0-0. And I've just stolen Ashley's prediction. Unlucky Ashley.
I think it. I don't know. 1-0 Rotherham. Johnson Clark Harris would sum up the season, I think. So why not? Well, predict a loss. Hopefully, I'm wrong. But if Poku's not travelling, then I don't want any goals. I've given up. I don't want any of them. If Poku's not travelling and he can't say goodbye to the away end, I don't want to be there. I'll refund my ticket.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Lodz. 0-0's gone. So the only other option is to predict Posh to win 7-2, isn't it? So that's what we're going to have. Ricky's going to get his hat-trick. Motherstill's going to score 2. Gustav's going to get 1 and Clark's going to get 1. And, you know, is Johnson Clark Harris even fit, Max? I'm not sure. So he can have both goals then in front of the away end and he'll celebrate with his little, like, one of them ones, you know. But, you know, this is the last preview of the season that we'll have. Like we've said earlier, if you really want to listen to our dulcet tones, there's 6 of us on the retained list recording that is out at 5 p.m. on Saturday. And then no doubt we will be back on Monday morning for you all to listen to our post-Rotherham reflections and maybe a little bit of a post-season review if anybody really wants to spend too long talking about that. As for now, thank you very much for everybody for listening. We've said it before. We've had a great season having people banter us back and forth. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you've thought. If you've clicked our link tree on Twitter, you know, drop us a comment as a reply. As for that, all I've got left to say is Up the Poshcast.
Up the Poshcast.
Up the Poshcast.
Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Up The Poshcast. Let us know your feedback. Give us any ideas for topics you would like to discuss or any questions you'd like us to answer. Up The Poshcast.
Birmingham to finish 7th. They will lose their first game and their second game.